Formal written email invitation to each of you, and I hope to see each of you soon. In closing, I would like to request that the Watsonville City Council agendize SEBA's zoning amendment as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Takashi Mizuno, and District 7, and I'm here tonight to speak in support of giving SABER permanent permit in the current location on Locust Street. And first of all, I live in the Bay Village, very close to the levee of the creek, and we are very thankful for the city staff members and the volunteers, especially just providing us with free sandbags during this severe winter storm. And my wife and I had to evacuate to hotels 2 times, altogether 4 nights. And that was a very special and rare experience because we never stayed in hotels in the downtown Watsonville. Anyway, I sent you 2 days ago, I sent you a link to my piece, Support SABER's Permit, which was published in the Paronian last December, because I already sent you the link last December, but there are 3 new city council members, so I sent it again 2 days ago, and I hope you could find time to read it. And that's all I want to say tonight, and I really hope that you can just make a decision to give SABER a permanent permit in the current location on Locust Street. And I received a suggestion or just new information from one of your members last December, and I read it carefully, and I just checked it carefully, and after that, I made the same thoughts about this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Dan Hernandez. I believe I reside in Miss Maria Roscoe's area. Thank you. I've come in front of your councils with issues about the police. Well, I'm glad, because now I had to take matters into my own hands and do my own investigating. And after 30 years, I don't know who you know Tony Valdivia is, my sister, Rosa de la Ramirez's son, who's been dead for 30 years, and the murderer has not been found. He has been found since Sunday. His name is Edgar Ayala. He is presently in Santa Cruz County Sheriff for 2 other shootings he did 6 months ago at Murphy's Crossing, same MO as my Tony. But the only difference is the gang silence came off the table this Sunday. And finally, the credible witness came up to the plate. Ralph Ramirez, his brother. After 30 years of gang silence, and gang silence is not worth a person's life. So, a lot of you up there think you know me. You don't know anything about me. But I know a lot about a lot of you and your secrets. See, I'm a dying man, so I can sometimes break the rules to get to the bottom of truths. That man, George, didn't even want to listen to me. Adri, that's what I was trying to get his attention on. But he's too busy thinking I'm a gangbanger. It's my 2 minutes. I have bled for this country. Edgar Ayala was seen getting out of the car immediately after the shooting, and my nephew seen him with brain matter and blood on him with a gun running off. Hell with that beeper. 3 minutes on public, because you know what? You guys have done breaking the rules, bending the rules of this nation's rules and regulations and parliamentary procedure.
Thank you, sir.
No, I'm not done.
Sir,
I have tried after time to try to get attention of this council, the old council. Shame on you guys for not asking the right questions. More to become in the media. In the meanwhile, Felipe Hernandez has been asked to assist in reopening this case. That way, there's no Mishevik involved from here on forward.
Thank you, sir.
And those who are saying thank you, be quiet. I
Thank
got
you,
the
sir.
right.
Thank you, sir.
Gonna run off, George.
Good afternoon, City Council, Mayor Montesino. My name is Fabian Leonor, and I live in District 4. The reason I'm here today is because I want to get your support for Save a College Preps. As you know, as Mr. Rip already explained, we're looking at a closure soon. So we're looking at 500 students and families with nowhere to go. I mean, there is public school, but we like our small culture school where our kids get the attention that they need one-on-one to be successful in this community, so they can come back to our community and sometime in the future maybe be up there. So the reason I'm here is to get your support, and hopefully that you can help us out and keep us in our current location right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mayor Montesino and Council. I'm Nancy Bilasich from District 7, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Pajaro Regional Flood Management Agency. I attended the meeting on January 3rd, which was an emergency meeting, and we reviewed where the water came from was obviously Corlitas Creek that flooded Bay and Pajaro Village. And then we had another meeting on January 11th, and again, we talked about that, and there was flooding on January 9th, but it was nothing like what happened on December 31st. So between that time, the city stepped up, the county stepped up, and things were a lot better. But one of the things that occurred, PERFMA has a map that shows where the water is going to go. And it had Bay Village, and it had Pajaro Village, and all of that area, but they also had a dividing line on McKenzie. So from McKenzie is where it was going to stop, and the evacuation order, the EOC 18, that the county used, and we use that for fires, earthquakes, a lot of different things, but for this flood, we put a lot of people under extra stress because you went from McKenzie to East Lake and told those people you're under mandatory evacuation, or you're under a warning, and the rain would come and people were nervous, and there was no flooding there in that area. So I would ask that you reassess. You know, that whole area has already been assessed for property tax because of whether they were in the flood zone or not and all of that. But when you put them under the EOC 18, you caused a lot of panic for a lot of people. And I know it's better to be safe than sorry, but if you continue to say, you're gonna flood, you're gonna flood, you're gonna flood, and nothing happens, if something does happen in an emergency, people are going to say, why? Why would we listen to this? We've already heard it. So I would hope that you would look and look at the EO 18 and go through the process to see if that area from McKenzie to East Lake should be included in the flood zone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Montesino, council members, Rebecca Garcia, District 5. I am here this evening because I believe in accountability, and I'm here to hold Casey Clark accountable. Casey, after the candidates filing period ended, I went to the Santa Cruz County website to read your statement, to learn who you are and for what you stand. I found Maria's and Crystal's statements, but you had none. I emailed you, and you acknowledged receiving my email, and I asked you why I and others should vote for you. Well, you chose to ignore my email and you did not respond. I waited and thought, maybe I'll get a knock on the door, maybe I'll get a phone call, or maybe I'll get a mailer. I received nothing. I checked with my neighbors and other voters in District 5, and they too said they had not received anything from you. Consequently, I and others chose to not vote for you, and it was reflected in the final data from the county elections department that showed you received the least amount of votes and the highest rate of write-ins among the uncontested candidates. I then attended the candidates forum believing I would finally learn something about you, but you never showed up. That evening, I emailed you questions that were asked by the moderator and some community members that asked about homelessness, gang violence, measures on the ballots, and other issues. Again, you chose to ignore my email and you did not respond. You are now a sitting council member and you have an obligation to respond to your constituents. So as a constituent who was a female Mexican council member and former mayor, I'm here tonight to say I want a response to the questions I have previously sent you, especially the last question I added, which is that District 5, the majority of residents are Mexicans and some of them are Spanish-speaking farm workers. How are you going to do the outreach and communicate with all residents of District 5? I want a response to all the questions before the next City Council meeting on February the 7th. Finally, I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Vanessa and Council members Jimmy, Maria, Crystal, and Ari for updating your constituents by mail or social media on the conditions of the storms and floodings that occurred in some areas of the city. Your ongoing communication was truly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Marta Belites from District 1. In 2013, the Watsonville Planning Commission approved a 10-year temporary conditional use permit, which led to the operation of the Saba Children's Charter School in a heavy industrial zone on a state highway, 129, and Locust Street. That land use issue has been controversial ever since and will be arriving at the council as a zoning amendment agenda item. In 2022, I presented citizen reports to the council documenting problems with that zoning proposal. Today, I would like to provide the council with new information which explains more of the events which led to the original approval. Saba had its charter school authorized by the PVUSD in 2008 and requested the district to provide physical facilities for its operation. From this, a dispute arose as to whether the school district was complying with its legal obligation under Proposition 39 to provide facilities to Saba. While significant details of this dispute has yet to be determined at this time, what is known is that Saba and the PVSD executed a settlement agreement in 2013 to eliminate the legal claims. Under the agreement, the district agreed to loan $2 million to Saba and to be a co-lessee on any property lease that Saba would enter into for a facility provided by other entities. In consideration, Saba waived its Proposition 39 rights for publicly provided facilities through the 2013-2014 school year. This is the background of events leading up to when Watsonville city government officials made the decision to become involved with Saba's quest for educational facilities. At this point, the historical record indicates that a recurring problem of failed public governance arises with the Saba charter school. First, the school district appears to have improperly withheld facilities from Saba, and then consequently, Watsonville city government officials violated their zoning code to provide an improvised alternative. The council should keep this historical perspective in mind as they consider the resolution of the issue. I will provide my materials for the 3 new council members that I presented last year later on this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing no one else, I'm going to bring it back to our item. So number 4A is introduction of the general plan update.
You may, oral communications from the council.
I thought it was, oh, sorry. Oral communication from council on 4C.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, are you going back?
Yeah. Well, that's, I'm just.
Oh, sorry.
So, are we doing the general plan 4A? Yeah. 4A, introduction of the general plan update, staff report.
I'm Justin Meek, Principal Planner with the City of Watsonville. Previously, we had anticipated kicking off the general plan update today and having the full team here available to give an informal presentation on it. It so happens that that has had to be rescheduled due to COVID. Some of the members contracted it, and so it was cut off.
Can you just get a little closer, please? Thank you. Yeah.
How about now? Sorry. Justin Meek, Principal Planner with the City of Watsonville. I'll be managing the preparation of the general plan update. Apologize that we don't have the consultant team with us today. This is going to be rescheduled for approximately 3 weeks from now because members were not available to come because they were sick with COVID. And so we don't have, unfortunately, the opportunity to introduce you to the whole project team that was going to be here this evening. That was why it was previously agendized. I do not have a presentation to share, but if you want, I can answer any questions that the council may have at this point. I'll just note that some of the key highlights to keep in mind is that we're looking at kicking off the general plan update. The one that we're currently working under is considered the 2005 general plan, which was prepared back in 1994 with subsequent amendments. As many of you know, and I'm sure we'll hear in the future, there was a previous general plan update process that started in the early aughts that was adopted around 2006 and then challenged in court successfully twice, and it has been formally rescinded. Since it's been close to 16 years since the preparation of that document, we're looking to update the general plan, include relevant aspects of it, but look down in another 30-year time horizon as we plan for the future of Watsonville in all aspects of growth, conservation, looking at the community, and things of that nature. So that was just a teaser at this point in time. I do apologize that we don't have anything else more formally prepared, but we wanted to give this opportunity to bring to your attention that this is about to be undertaken.
Anyone have any questions? I just have one burning one. Is like the timetable for the general plan from kickoff to hopefully finish timetable.
Well, given that a general plan looks holistically at a community, not just a small area, typically the timeframes for the preparation of this type of document, including the environmental impact report for it, will take 2 to 3 years to complete.
Thank you very much. Thanks. With that, we're going to move on to oral communication from the council because I switched stuff around. Anywhere from council, council member Parker.
I know, I know your pain on that. Welcome and thank you everyone for coming. And thank you for speaking to us in public comment for whatever it is that you would like to do, and I encourage others to do that regularly. I want to say how much, I mean, I've always loved the community my entire life, but I love it even more now. I just couldn't believe the fabulous volunteers. My district, District 7, was the flooding, the flooding happened tremendously there to a lot of our seniors who had no ability to physically be able to stand up and protect their homes. And honestly, our staff went out, asked our community partners, and our community partners just came. And I mean, I wasn't the only one crying when people came to help. And then they followed up with a beautiful resource meeting that gave opportunity to plan, because, when you just don't know what's going on, that's how we all felt. Especially on New Year's Eve. So the new year was very stressful. I do want to make comment on what Nancy Bilasich said. The county's water from the Corlitas Creek was not expected to do anything, but it flooded us. And if it had flooded 20 yards upriver, it could have flooded in the middle of Watsonville. So when we did those warnings, knowingly that whenever it loses and it went over its bank, it was seriously the wild, wild west. So PERFMA knew about it. We talked to Mark Strugley, and And it was best to be, because we didn't know where it was going to go if it happened. We knew it was one side or the other, and that's what had happened. So I just want to thank everybody for their response and just we're all very thankful. And I'll stay within my 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilmember Orozco?
I also want to echo some of the comments from our council member, Ari Parker. I want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. I want to start my comments by acknowledging and thanking the hard work of staff, community members, and community stakeholders alike. You got us through a storm that hasn't been seen in so many years, and so we appreciate the community coming together and assisting us with whether it was preparing bags, sandbags, delivering those, or helping residents that were impacted by the flood. So we are forever thankful, and we look forward to your partnership as we begin the recovery efforts moving forward. Lastly, I want to also thank the folks who have shown interest in being appointed to different commissions through the city of Watsonville. I want to congratulate those who will be appointed tonight, and civic engagement is critical, so I just want to thank you for volunteering your time. Thank you.
Thank you. What else?
I used my 2 minutes.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to wish Councilman Casey Clark happy birthday. It's his birthday tonight, his first official meeting. So I know. I'm sorry, Casey.
With that,
but
we're going to sing along happy birthday.
Oh, well, you're going to have to start that one.
Yes. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Casey. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, just want to thank you for your commitment to the community. Takes a lot to put yourself out there, and being here on your birthday even more so. Also, I want to welcome Councilmember Dutra for joining us, and I think Mayor Pro Tem, you wanted to say something? Okay, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. It has been, as Councilmember Parker said, it's been a long year already. We've been through a lot. I too just want to express my thanks for everyone who stepped up to the plate and helped. It was something that was very unexpected. Staff sprang into action. We had different council members doing different things, filling sandbags, trying to keep up with communications, responding to constituents, and doing our best to update you with everything that's going on. I also attended the flood resources meeting. A few of my colleagues were there as well. And we have a lot of resources to help those affected. The president has just declared it a disaster, which is great. That means we get hopefully some money to help. I also met with FEMA along with other council members and the mayor as well. And that went really well. And hopefully that was kind of the catalyst that allowed us to get that federal aid. And now we're focused on recovery efforts. We have, I believe the Volunteer Center is looking for volunteers who would like to help those folks. As Councilmember Parker mentioned, there are some folks who are unable to clean up and things like that, but could use some assistance. So if you are interested, that's a place to reach out. You can also reach out to any of us and our staff if you would like to assist. And hopefully we have sunny skies moving forward. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Well, my remarks is just going to be thanking the community for helping each other out in this time of need. It's tremendous to see the community pulling together, helping each other out. It's wonderful to see that in action. I also want to thank staff for doing all they can to keeping us safe. It's not an easy method to put warnings out. Working with not only our county but Monterey County and everyone else. But so think you've done an excellent job. Also want to thank Congressman Panetta and especially Congressman Lois Sofgren. She's been wonderful to work with. I know Councilmember Parker has been in touch with her, all along, and we've been, we're able to get FEMA to visit our community. They saw the devastation firsthand, especially in our senior community. So hopefully resources are coming, and people that need help should take advantage of those opportunities, because I know those people are greatly impacted. So everybody working towards the same goal of helping the community that got impacted. So hopefully we move forward in that endeavor and keep educating people how to access information and access stuff that they might need. So with that, we're gonna, do we have any, we don't have any reports to the council that I've seen. So we're gonna move on to 5A, City Manager's Update Report.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, council members, real briefly, a lot of you already commented on FEMA. Staff is busily working with FEMA at all different levels. I think the team that you see over there has been on point since 12/31, working on a lot of aspects, so, and a lot more to come. Clearly, the emergency, the challenges have been front and center for us. So some of the business that might have already been before you, it's actually been delayed and paused, but we'll hopefully not get back into the swing of things, like, some of the presentation on the city, but other things will start coming before you in the very near future. So we had to just kind of pause because our focus was totally on the emergency. So we'll just keep plugging away. And like today, for example, the general plan was kind of be sort of a normalcy kind of item. But that obviously has been delayed a little bit longer. So we're going to hopefully be launching on that. Have been meeting with the federal level and at the county level. And I can kind of tell you all the cities and the counties are trying to coordinate as much as possible to make sure that all the information is presented for FEMA to, make the decisions and start moving forward on the recovery and funding and so forth. So there's going to be really a couple of phases. One, there's the infrastructure, obviously for our streets or roads, some of that, and then there's the community impact themselves. So those are pretty Herculean efforts trying to work through all that with FEMA. So there'll be a lot of information in the upcoming days and weeks on how we can start getting the recovery back and our community back up and running. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to our consent items. All items appearing in the consent agenda are recommended actions that are considered to be routine and will be acted upon in one motion. Any items removed will be considered immediately after the motion. The mayor will allow input prior to the approval of the consent agenda. Anybody from the public would like to weigh on items on the agenda?
Hello, everybody. My name is Providence Martinez Salanis. I live in District 3, and I wanted to thank the council for approving my nomination to be the representative for the Santa Cruz County Housing Authority for the South County. And I just wanted to thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'll bring it back to council, and I know Council Member Parker had something to say for 6L.
I do. On 6L, I'm an employee of the Paro Valley Unified School District. I do not stand to gain financially from this contract on 6L. I work in a different department than that implicated by this contract. And so just wanted to be transparent as possible as we go to vote on this part of the consent agenda.
Thank you. And one comment before I open up to council action. On 6G, on appointment for members of the committee for the calendar year 23. As it pertains to appointments of the committee and commissions for city council, thank you for your willingness to serve. As you know, there are many committees and commissions that the city council sits on as a matter of policy and governance. However, over the years, we've taken actions to appoint council members to sit on nonprofit boards that are not a matter of governance and or policy that are nonetheless important. So, number one, the agenda maintains our annual appointments, but in the future, as we look to continue to streamline and improve our processes, I have asked staff to look at this and bring back recommendations to the council for considerations in the future. Councilmember Parker.
I'd like to, is this a moment where I can speak to it? Okay. I'd like to speak to that in the sense that I think a lot of us support many of the positions. We're talking the arts councils, PV Arts, but in the past they've presented conflicts because we also give money to those organizations. And it doesn't mean we can't become, as citizens, members of those, but having a liaison from the city council, because some of them aren't even official voting members, right? And I think that's what our city clerk has been looking into. And even last year, we had a big discussion on it, just because there were so many, and council was having such difficulty, finding what would work. And as years go on, we keep getting invited to different things. So I hope we actually take action on that this year. I think the city clerk has done a lot of research, and he will continue to do any research we want him to do, to find that, and or at least have a really solid, positive public discussion on it. Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, council members. So we have been working together. I know Tamara, city manager, have been working on this as well before. It will be coming to you. It's actually in your city council protocols. So as we move forward on some of the strategic planning sessions that we have planned with you, we will be presenting some options for your consideration in this and other areas. So the reason we weren't able to get the protocols here before you, so we can make those changes. So we'll be bringing that to you in the very near future, probably within a month and a half. Thank you.
So it's a delay, but moving forward, hopefully we can come to a better process moving forward. So as it stands, it's the same calendar that but you initially got, but we could have consideration if we can talk about it. Do we want to put it off, or it's up for discussion for all of us. So if somebody wants to speak on it, or make a motion.
Are you speaking about now, right now, or are you talking about when they're presented with the protocols, when it mayor?
Either one, because we can move forward with, and correct me if I'm wrong, we could, do all the GPA's government agencies and put off the other discussion, or take no action in appointing people from us.
Okay, then I have a question. Have you identified during this time? Could you let us know which ones they are that you've identified that they're not?
So we've been working with Erwin and stuff, so I think our city attorney will weigh in, but the ones that we're talking about right now would be the Arts Council, Santa Cruz County, the Community Action Board of Santa Cruz County, Pajaro Valley Arts Council Board of Directors, Pajaro Valley Health Trust, Pajaro Valley Prevention and Student Assistance, and the Santa Cruz Youth Action Network. So those will be the ones, those similar things that we will talk to you about. How do we appoint in the future, not appoint in the future?
Okay, so, and are we voting members of those particular things, or are we liaisons from, like communication liaisons
So
back
these
and
are the
forth?
ones, so everyone can speak to that. I think we have them up here, so.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Perhaps while Erwin's looking for that, I can weigh in for just a minute. I think that what the city manager was referring to is the procedure by which the city council decides amongst itself to appoint members of the council to liaison with these nonprofits is in your council protocols. And so we anticipate, I think we have coming up a discussion with the council about some things in the council protocols that over the years have just come to staff's attention as things that could use discussion by the council. And so in the context of that discussion, we were planning to talk to you about suggesting that you rework this procedure. You can do that tonight if you'd like, or it was staff, or you give staff direction to, yes, bring it back to us at another date, or staff is already planning to bring it back to you as part of the discussion on the council protocols.
Go ahead.
I have a general question then. When you say you're counting on bringing it back, when specifically would that be? The next meeting?
No, I think the council. The discussion on the council member protocols is set to take place at the special meeting on February 18th.
Well, I'd make the motion not to assign or appoint any of our city council members to any of those that we're going to be discussing until such time as we've been able to have that discussion. So that's my motion.
So I think you are.
I'm not saying never, I'm just saying until we have time to have that discussion.
Sure. So you're pulling that item from consent?
Yes.
Which item? Okay. Oh, are all of the nonprofits contained in?
I'm just looking at the ones that were.
Mayor, if I may, Erwin Ortiz, City Clerk. I want to just kind of give a brief overview as to some of these commissions and appointments that we are recommending that council review. Are we pulling the item? Would it be appropriate to discuss it once we remove it, or would you like me to just give an overview now?
Just give an overview.
Okay.
Okay.
The first one would be the Arts Council of Santa Cruz County. It was formerly the Cultural Council of Santa Cruz County. We're non-voting members there. So in the image that Ala's displaying here, it's the ones in pink. And I do have copies for the public and for council if you could distribute those. So that's first. We're non-voting members. In the bylaws, it actually reads that the council members would be city representatives, but it would be more of a liaison position. So I do have phone calls to them to verify that information. They're the only ones that I'm currently waiting on a response from. Second, Community Action Board, which is a nonprofit. So the council has been routinely appointing to Community Action Board, but the council could still participate with them without having an official action from the council on a nonprofit, which could create conflicts, as mentioned by Councilmember Parker. Pajaro Valley Arts Council is very similar. It's also a non-voting position. We do it yearly through these appointments, and some of these we ask that they're nominated, and then the board itself will do the appointment. So it's interesting in that sense that we have that one, and another one would be like Pajaro Valley Health Trust, where we nominate and then they make the appointment themselves. We have also Pajaro Valley Prevention and Student Assistance. And lastly, the Santa Cruz Youth Action Network. And so not all of these are up for reappointment at this time, which is why you don't see them all on this list, because some of them are nominations and they're appointed through the agency. You'll notice that they're on separate terms. So we nominate and then they make the appointment. And on others, they're just nonprofits and could create issues down the line. So those are some of the things that we were looking at when we were discussing these. We did put the agenda out and the packet out previous to getting some of this direction. So this is us kind of trying to bring it to you at this time and allowing for the discussion to happen here at the dais.
Councilmember Parker.
And that's, I mean, that's kind of the history when we had Councilwoman Garcia and the housing, right? And that's why we have a different person not here. So that's, and I really appreciate the conversation. Because not only is it, there's so many things that we're on, but that then we can really openly and transparently be a part of a fresh conversation here as a part of council. And in some ways, I think maybe we'll have more interaction with those organizations, possibly because they won't depend on our council members to do those communications. They'll depend on themselves to come and communicate with all the rest of us, which we may not be as informed as we need to. So I would just like to really have that discussion before we place people on it. I think I appreciate all the work that our attorney and our city clerk and our city manager and our assistant city manager have done in looking into it, because we didn't worry about that so much in the past, conflicts of interest, but constantly it comes up. I don't want to be, if other people have a comment on it, but that's what I would like to do, pull them and then have that discussion before we appoint.
If I may suggest, the motion might be to approve the consent calendar with the exception of any resolution approving appointment to any of the committees just articulated by Clerk Ortiz.
I find that to be an excellent change of the motion, so if it's so accepted, that is the motion I'd like to have.
And I'll second that, because like I said, over the years I've been in council now, this is my second term, and we've had different conflicts from different council members, and I think we'll get better interactions with our nonprofit partners and better advocacy, and I think we'll be better partners because of it. So I'd like to, I'll second that word gladly. With that, any Councilmember Dutra?
I have a question. On the I see these are done in resolutions. If you want to vote no on one individual person, how do you do that? But yet agree with the rest of the resolution.
Not sure I understand the question. Are you asking a question separate from the committees that we're speaking about here?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So you would need to pull that resolution. Are there multiple people nominated in that resolution?
Yes.
So you would need to pull that resolution. Maybe you could pull that resolution. We could take a vote on the remainder of the consent calendar with the modifications suggested by Councilmember Parker, and then we could come back to that resolution.
Okay.
Would that work?
Yep.
Okay, very good.
Should I pull it now?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to pull the Planning Commission appointments.
Which is item 6K?
6K.
Great.
So Councilmember Dutra pulls 6K, which will now be 7A. With that, any more discussion? Seeing none, can I get a roll call?
Mayor, I just
Comments? Can I make
Oh, yeah.
discussion?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
I just want to say thank you to everybody who, steps up, as everyone else has been saying, and volunteers to, be a part of our city. I know that it's sometimes hard to get people away from their daily plans, which are busy, so I really do appreciate it. It's exciting to see Amico and Jennifer Shocker and Melissa Milich and Joyce Parr and other people, stepping up and helping out our community. I also wanted to say thank you to Dr. Bilicic, who worked very hard on our flood zone boards, and I want to say thank you for the many years and service that you gave to us during that time. And then I also want to say, I'm replacing my library commissioner because, unfortunately, my library commissioner passed away, and Barbara Corrigan, she is an amazing person, and it's always hard to see the good ones go. So I just want to say that, I'm thinking of her, and I want to say thank you for your service to our community. So she passed away as serving as our commissioner, so thank you.
Yeah, so with that, anybody else, then can I get a roll call, please?
Mayor, I just want to clarify that the motion was by Councilmember Parker, seconded by Mayor Montesino. Items 6G, 6K, 6O, and 6Q will be removed from this consent agenda.
Yes.
Clark?
Aye.
Dutra?
Aye.
Orozco?
Aye.
Parker?
Yes.
Quiroz Carter,
Aye.
and Montesino.
Yes.
The motion carries.
And with that, we're going to go on to items removed from consent agenda, which is 7A, which was 6K, Planning Commission appointments. Make any comments?
Pass the resolution, but no.
I believe we need a motion first, and then if you get a second, then we take a roll call on that, and if that fails, then we can take a new motion, depending on how the council feels.
Well, so the thing is, why aren't we voting on these people individually? Why are they all put into one resolution?
Appointments to the Planning Commission, you mean? Routinely, the cities put all of the appointments to commissions in one resolution. It's just the standard that we've used over the years. If that's something the council is in disagreement with, we could, you know, separate them, or you can.
Force people to make a decision on a whole group of people saying that acting as that they're alike.
If I could,
Right.
you're right. This is not, this is a common way of handling multiple appointments to a board, but certainly if a council member does not agree with one of the appointments, you can pull that appointment off of the resolution, and your motion would be, I move that we approve the resolution with the following exception. And that would be fine. And so if you'd like to make that motion, we can, as Clerk Ortiz said, we could take a vote on that and then go from there. But you're right, and also if the council would like to see individual resolutions for individual appointments going forward, certainly I could work with the city clerk and we could bring that to you.
Councilmember Park.
I think there's a way to handle it, and she just explained it, so, and you can pull it individually. I'm going to make the motion to approve this resolution as is. If anybody would like to second my motion, that would be great. Because still the answer to it could be no on this particular person, just like we've done on many, many occasions. No, it doesn't.
No.
You can say no to an individual.
Okay, no, okay, so I can say yes, but no.
Yeah, it's been done, yeah.
I can help you with that motion. Councilmember Parker has a motion on the floor now. If there's a second, we'll take a vote
I'll
on that.
second.
Okay, very good.
Councilmember Roscoe seconds. So.
Clark?
Aye.
Petra?
Aye, but no on Jenny Veach Olson and no on Peter Radin.
Orozco?
Aye.
Parker?
Yes.
Quiroz Carter?
Aye.
Montesino.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, so we're, motion passes, so on to new business. But we have public hearing at 5:30, which is, we're very close, so we're gonna take.
It's 5:30 or soon thereafter, so whenever that's the last, the hearing notice has to be sent out, and it can't be before 5:30. So anything after is okay.
Okay, so we could just move on to 8A?
We still have a couple of items continued from the consent agenda. So we have item 6G, which is the calendar year
that's
appointments, and then 6O and 6Q, which go right along with those type of appointments.
So those were removed and.
That, yeah, and in clarifying the motion, we were going to discuss
Okay.
the calendar year and the other two resolutions, which appoint to the PV Health Trust and the Youth Action Network.
No,
The-
no,
the-
that's what we're.
Okay. Was it then 6G on its own?
No, I think the motion was to,
We passed all of the, okay. My apologies, I thought, and my clarification there. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay, we're okay.
All the pink ones, we were not gonna appoint till we had a chance to discuss.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was the motion. So we're good if we go 6A, right, correct? So 6A is appoint of youth representation to the library board for trustees and to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Recommended by staff. Nick here, or?
Alrighty, good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Nick Merle, I'm the Recreation Supervisor with the Parks and Community Services Department. So today, along with Celeste Carrillo from the library, we have the great honor of introducing our Teen Action Council members. This is a group of youth that have been hand-selected, have gone through an interview process, have received a letter of recommendation from a coach, a teacher, or a mentor, and have most importantly, shown us that they have a desire to make a change in our community. Our Teen Action Council has gotten quickly to work. They are already in conversations with our planning department to have a youth voice in the 2050 general plan. So with that, I'm going to introduce our Teen Action Council members. So first up, we have our co-chair, Ruby Romero Maya. Perfect. And then our secretary, Andrea Roman Fernandez. Then our also co-chair, Elizabeth Provey. And then we are missing a few other members. With having these high-performing youth, they also have alternative clubs and school activities. So also on our Teen Action Council, we have Ani Cortez Jacobo, and she is our treasurer. Isabella Brandon, and she is our parks rep. Jocelyn Quintana, and she is the activities chair. And last but not least, Sandra Mendel, and she is going to be the library rep. So we're here to answer any questions from the council or.
City Council questions? Councilmember Dutra?
I just want to say thank you, congratulations. You're our leaders now and future leaders, so take this all in and let us know if you have any issues. We're here for you.
Councilmember Parker?
I just want to say, or ask, forgive me, I'm going to make you go to the microphone. I wanted to ask, what motivated you to be a part of the process?
This is something I'm super passionate about.
Actually, I wasn't talking to you, Nick. I know you're totally passionate about all this, although you can answer that anytime. I was thinking of the student members that were here. I didn't mean to put them on the spot, but, what motivated you to be a part of this?
My name is Ruby Romero Maya. Personally, what motivated me was the opportunity to be part of the Summer in the City internship. It really made me feel more connected to my community, and I feel by being part of this Teen Action Council, I'll be able to give back to this community that I've learned to love and care for.
Thank you. Don't be shy.
Roman Fernandez, what motivated me to be part of this council was able to have a voice in this council, be able to represent some of my community and some of my fellow teenagers, just since I know not everybody is able to be part of a council like this, and I think it's a great opportunity for me to be able to get to know more people, be able to make some changes possibly.
Thank you.
My name is Providencia Elizabeth, and I wanted to get closer with my community and see how other people communicate and just get to know each other better by doing events and other stuff like that.
Great, and now I'm going to ask Nick a question. So Nick, because this came and it's going to go all over. I'm looking at all the different services they're a part of. How did you get involved in that, and where was the vision from?
It was definitely something that was kind of brought up to us by our director, Nick Alvakiv, and also the library director. But for us in the library, just being so involved in youth programs, it's a no-brainer to have youth kind of making decisions. I mean, I sit there with our team and every day struggle, what's going to be cool, what's going to be popular, and having these great individuals right next to us kind of helping make those decisions, you know, for our programs, but also for the community as a whole is just perfect.
That's great. My new library commissioner is super excited about working with youth. He's a poet, and but he's just super excited about having the youth be a part of all of this too. So, thank you guys. You did great.
Yeah. With that, any public input?
I just like to say it's going to be awesome to work with the youth in our community. I just like to say thank you to Maria Orozco for giving me also the opportunity to serve on the Parks and Recs Commission. And like I said, bringing youth like them, it's going to open a lot of doors for us because they're our future. They're the ones that are going to give us all the ideas that we need to bring forward and make this city a better place to live, to raise our kids, to work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Rebecca Garcia. Good evening, Mayor and council members. First, I need some clarification. On the agenda, it says the 8A, it says action on resolution appointing Sandra Medell as the youth representative to the Library Board of Trustees and Isabel Brandon on the youth representative to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Is this what this agenda item's about?
Yes.
Okay. Then, on that note, I can share my my thoughts. Okay. As I said, my name is Rebecca Garcia, District 5 former council member and mayor. I want to congratulate Sandra and Isabella on their appointment as youth representative to the Library Commission and Parks and Recreation Commission. When I first proposed this idea of having youth on the commissions to the then interim city manager, and she proposed it to the directors of the library and Parks and Recs, they immediately said yes and created the Teen Action Council. And I want to thank them for their immediate support of this initiative. And now Sandra and Isabel are here, but I don't see them here. Are they here? They're not present, although they're the ones that are being appointed. They are, yes. Okay. Well, if they were here, what I'd like to say to them and direct my comments to both Sandra and Isabel is your role on the commission is advisory. So your words are going to be so important in the adoption of policy by the commissions. The Watsonville community is about inclusion and equity for youth, seniors, and disabled and all residents. From your perspective, I suspect you have ideas on what needs to be changed to achieve inclusion and equity. Change only occurs through policy. So the importance of you sharing your questions, your comments, your opinions, and your recommendations to influence the adult commissioners on their vote on policy brought before them will have an impact on service to the community. The community will be thankful for your contributions to those services, so do not ever hesitate to share your thoughts. I want to wish you well and have lots of fun on the commission, and again, congratulations. And I would ask that they be asked to see the video so they can hear my comments.
Thank you. With that, saying nobody else, I'll bring it back to council for appropriate motion, deliberation.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this item with one comment.
Go ahead.
So I just want to thank Director Kalavakev and Supervisor Marilla for bringing this item forward. I think it's definitely an investment in a new generation of change agents and an opportunity for our youth to receive professional development, mentorship, and have their voice directly impact our decision making. I think it's fundamental, and I'm looking forward to maybe in the future actually having a sitting youth council member up here with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Councilmember Park.
I'm going to echo what Councilwoman, and there I did it. See, there you go. I want to say Maria, and then it stops in my brain. So I'm just really excited about what's going on in Parks and Rec and the expansion that they're doing for inclusion. Couldn't ask for a more awesome person to support all that as Nick Marola. So the Knicks have it going on. It's happening. And I just want to say thank you. And regardless of whether the students could be here tonight, you know, we all have crazy things going on in our lives. Really appreciate the ones who could be. And I'm sure maybe they're even at home watching this and then regretting they couldn't get up on that microphone and talk too. So thank you very much.
Yeah, just a couple comments. It's just great to see the youth getting involved, and your answer that's, you know, a wealth of thank you for volunteering. Thank you for committing to the community, because you're going to be the next leaders, and you know, get to know. You have a lot of mentors here in the community that can guide you in the right direction to one day sit here, you know, in one of these seats, which is, you know, an awesome experience. So with that, seeing no other comments, roll call, please.
Clark,
Aye.
Dutra,
Aye.
Orozco,
Aye.
Parker,
Yes.
Quiroz Carter,
Aye.
and Montesino.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to public hearings, ordinances, and appeals. 9A is construction of self-storage units and manager's apartment at 70 Nielsen Street. Staff report by Principal Planner Meek.
Thank you. Justin Meek, Principal Planner for the City of Watsonville. I'll be giving tonight's presentation. Mayor Montesino, members of the City Council, and public on this particular project. Cocker's Lockers at 70 Nielsen, a proposed self-storage facility. Just a quick overview. I'll be going over first the overall location and a bit of a discussion on the project itself, highlight the procedures that are before you for the review and approval of this project, then a discussion on key topics, everything from airport compatibility to design, and then touch on the environmental review per CEQA that was conducted for this project, highlight the key findings that would need to be made to allow for its approval, and the recommendation from Planning Commission. The project location is at 70 Nielsen, which is located near the corner of Airport Boulevard and Nielsen Street. It's located in an area that's designated for industrial type development and is zone IP, or industrial park, and it's a little over 4 acres in size. The existing site is a parking lot. It has existing curb gutter and sidewalks surrounding the site and 2 driveway access. It's mostly flat. It has a slight grade that slopes generally in a southeasterly direction, and is located across the street from not only the existing hospital, but also the Watsonville Municipal Airport. Adjoining it are various forms of industrial type development, including light industrial and a contractor's yard to the north and to the east specifically. Further afield are residential, which are, as you continue along Airport Boulevard or down Hangar Way and to the right, are some mobile home parks and single-family residents. As I'll touch on more later in this presentation, a key thing to keep in consideration is that in addition to the zoning districts and general plan land use designations, the site falls into 3 airport safety zones, specifically portions of zone 2, 5, and 6 for the inner approach departure zone, the sideline zone, and what's considered the overall traffic pattern zone. The proposed project itself consists of a little over 1,000 individual self-storage units in 6 1- and 2-story buildings, as well as a standalone manager's unit where there's an office for those that visit the site to conduct their business and an apartment above for the on-site manager. These are just a couple illustrations of what it would look like. The 6 buildings as shown here, most of them surround the site with 2 centrally located ones. Altogether, there's 1,072 units that consists of close to 150,000 square feet, and the manager's building, which is right next to the main entry off of Nielsen Street. One thing to highlight is as part of this project, the actual driveway into the site is going to be moved over a short distance to create better separation from one of the main entrances into the hospital itself. There's also another secondary access to the site, and that's primarily in case there's emergencies for better ingress and egress for fire in case they need to access the site. Overall, the entire project would provide about 21 parking spaces, and that's the subject of the plan development, which I'll go into a little bit later too. This is just highlighting the overall stories of the buildings. As you saw in your packet, there are some questions about airport compatibility and safety. Just highlighting that in Zone 2, there are only single-story buildings, and the 2-story buildings are in Zones 5 and 6. Other site improvements include changing the on-site circulation, new landscaping, drainage, lighting, fencing, and of course signage for the proposed project, and those comprise the entire project. I'm going to show you a couple illustrations, site elevations of what it will look like. These are ones facing the street from both Airport and Nielsen. You can see there's different articulations to give it variable roof lines and make it more interesting. There's also variable materials, also to create visual interest. Internal to the site, of course, it is a self-storage, and so this is an example of what a 1- and 2-story building would look like for those that would visit this site. The manager's unit is also the tallest building, up to 29 feet in height. As you can see, it's a mix of different materials. You have the main entry for those who have a self-storage facility on the sites and need to visit the site and conduct their business. And on the second floor, as shown on the floor plan, is a living space for the man or woman who manages the site and lives there. There's new landscaping that's proposed. Some of the existing landscape that surrounds the site would be kept, but it will also be refreshed. There's a range of drought-tolerant, appropriate landscape plants from shrubs to ground covers. There's also a bioswale that's proposed in the area shown here, as well as other locations to manage stormwater off the site in accordance with the city's post-construction stormwater requirements. The range of materials include faux stone at the ground level, stucco, siding and tile, metal awnings, all to create more of a modern-looking building and less communicating as a storage facility itself. And the applicant can speak to his desires when it comes to the overall look and feel of this project as well. And this is just to give you some photo illustrations of what those materials would look like once constructed at the site. You can see a mix of colors, mix of materials, columns, different roof elevations, all to help make for a more attractive project. And then again, here's are the illustrative artistic illustrations, one showing the main entrance, the other one showing from roughly the corner of Nielsen and Airport. So in terms of the procedure for the review of this project, it consists of a number of things, one of which is the plan development. So this would be added onto as an overlay district for this site. And the main purpose of that is to allow the modification of certain development standards, in this case, parking, as well as the approval, as with any plan development, a specific development plan and special use permit. I would note that a use permit would have been triggered anyway for a mini warehouse facility. And with any project, it goes through the design review process, And a project of this nature also had an initial study, mitigated neg deck prepared for your consideration. So the actions before council tonight include the following. First, the adoption of an MND, or mitigated negative declaration, adoption of the Plan Development Overlay District, and I would note that because this is changing the zoning in this way, it triggers the need for 5 affirmative votes, and as well as the adoption of a resolution for a specific development plan and special use permit with design review. And if approved, then the applicant could move forward with applying for building plans for its eventual construction, and that would be the building permit at a later date. Here's a key overview of the discussion topics that I'm going to go over tonight, including the general plan, compatible land use, considerations about compatible land use, airport compatibility, design review, and of course, environmental review as well. As I mentioned before, many warehouses are allowed conditionally in the IP zoning district with a special use permit. And this particular project is consistent with the IP zoning district for all development standards, from everything from height, lot frontage, to lot coverage and setbacks. The only one in which it's not is the amount of parking that the city otherwise requires for many warehouse facilities. Because of the number of units they want to propose and the number of spaces that would have been required, the applicant approached the city to make the case that it wasn't needed, and so they went through the plan development process that is under consideration tonight, and they provided information as to why 150 plus parking spaces wouldn't be needed, because they wouldn't be used on average for the length of stay that people typically take to go to their other facilities in other locations. And so that information is included in the packet to help explain why the lesser number of parking spaces are proposed as part of this project. In terms of the general plan, the proposed mini warehouse facility is in an area that's already designated for light industrial, and of course, these type of uses do allow conditionally for this type of use. It would be otherwise considered compatible with existing light industrial and other industrial uses nearby. It wouldn't be considered a nuisance. And its overall consistency with everything from compatibility to design, the site improvements that are proposing, as well as policies in the general plan concerning airport compatibility, which I'll talk about a little bit further. The only one in which it's not explicitly consistent with is the general plan has some provisions that speak to preservation of, or creation of more job-generating type land uses. And as articulated under the discussion about airport land use compatibility, there are limitations to what the site could be used for, and still found in compliance with intensity limitations per the state's aeronautics and Caltrans handbook on airport land use compatibility. And so that limits the overall development potential of this particular site. So airport land use compatibility, we reference the Caltrans handbook. This is the California Land Use Compatibility Handbook, and it establishes all kinds of criteria that speaks to height, use, noise, safety, density, and intensity to ensure overall compatibility with the airports, and doesn't create a hazard for airplanes as well as people on the land. Now, there are 6 safety zones, and as I highlighted before, this particular site is within 3 of those, and those are the ones you can see here, 2, 5, and 6. And one thing I just want to highlight, and you can see with these dashed lines, is that it's sort of bifurcated. The closest side to the airport is in zone 2, and that's the most restrictive zone. And the least restrictive zone is zone 6, a traffic pattern zone. I want to highlight a little bit on zone 2, because as included in your packet, we received correspondence both on the initial study and then on the Planning Commission packet from legal counsel that represents the Watsonville Pilots Association, or WPA, and they take issue with questions about zone 2 in particular. So I just want to walk you through looking at some of the criteria in the handbook for your understanding. As shown on the safety zone, air approach zone in figure 4C of the handbook, it speaks to the overall safety criteria. And under the normally allowed uses include warehouses. Under types of uses should be limited, should be single-story office buildings, or non-residential uses to activities that do not attract many people. Under uses to be avoided, all residential uses except infill and developed areas, multi-story uses and uses with high density or intensity, and of course things like shopping centers or other things like eating establishments, which again attract large number of peoples. And of course prohibiting things like theaters, office buildings greater than 3 stories and so forth. And then they set a series of what are called intensity limits on an average and single acre basis. And that's what's shown in that table below. I just want to highlight the average acre for a suburban setting is 40 to 60. We use the lower limit so as not to invite any concern about the city abusing its discretion for both the single and average acre basis. There's a table just highlighting the proposed number of people in each of these zones, and as you can see, they are below the limits in all 3 zones for 2, 5, and 6 on both a average and single acre basis. Another question concerned the overall height of this particular project and whether we had 1 or 2 story buildings. Previously, building C, as shown in zone 2, was 2 stories. When the when the WPA issued a letter challenging that it couldn't be 2 stories, even though the intensity limit was lower than the threshold, in speaking with the applicant, they elected to reduce it from 2 to 1 stories in the abundance of caution to make sure that there was no concern on that topic. Another thing to take in consideration when you think of height, there's something called the Part 77 surface. This is an imaginary surface that emanates out from the runways. And so this defines what is the navigable airspace, and anything that penetrates it could be considered an obstruction or create a hazard for that navigable airspace. And so these surfaces establish, in essence, the maximum height that objects, and those could be anything from buildings to trees, that could reach, and otherwise you want to avoid so as not to create a hazard. This is what it looks like for our airport. And as you can see, it's kind of hard to understand exactly where you are in space. And so to be able to understand what that entails, what's called an FAA Form 7460 was filed with the FAA formally. This is typically done at the building stage, but we did it ahead of time just to confirm whether or not the proposed height of the buildings would represent an obstruction that would penetrate this surface, and it was determined not to. And that's also being included in the packet for the record. In terms of the overall design, let me shift gears here and highlight the look and feel of the proposed buildings. It's going to be a modern-looking building in an industrial setting across the street from the airport and the hospital. The massing, as I noted before, is broken up by trim, offsets, various roof designs. Materials include everything from corrugated metal to tilt-up walls with tile and stucco for visual interests. Also, to create visual interests include things like metal lattices and wooden trellises. And of course, the parking to this is mostly interior and is mostly screened with new landscaping along the street frontages. Part of the project involves new lighting as well. Most of it is on the buildings themselves with wall-mounted lighting that are downward facing. There is a higher light standard near the driveway entrance to have greater illumination for those entering and leaving the site. An initial study has been prepared on behalf of the city by a third-party consulting firm called MIG. It found that any potentially significant impacts could be mitigated, and that allows for the adoption of what's called a mitigated negative declaration. During the public review period, we received 2 letters, one from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and the other from the WPA. The packet includes responses to those comments, as well as some errata, particularly to the Fish and Wildlife's letter, and no new impacts were found, and that's why we're allowed to adopt the document with just a simple errata. It's been found that there's no substantial evidence in the record that the project, as mitigated, will have a significant effect on the environment for areas analyzed within the initial study, and mitigation measures have been identified when implemented will avoid or reduce potential impacts to a less than significant level. In terms of, the fish and wildlife concerns, there was one that had to do with biological resources, and so one of the mitigation measures was amended to include a limit on initiation of grading activities to the dry season, and also to conduct focus surveys for Santa Cruz tar plant. As we know, tar plant exists nearby on airport property, and this is a way to confirm whether it's present in the parking lot as well. If so, appropriate buffers and other measures would be implemented during the construction phases. And further, just to ensure that there doesn't create nighttime glare, there are a few other measures that are added on to this that make sure that it is downcast, and the light levels are a certain Kelvin, which is a light intensity. The WPA comments, they were also responded to in the response to comments, and I would just like to highlight that there is an analysis on airport safety in section 9.6.9E under the hazard and hazardous materials, which also address airport safety concerns. That the analysis is based on objective standards in the handbook. It uses the average and single acre intensity methodologies in the handbook. It found that the project would not expose people to excessive noise, and finds the project would not pose a risk to air navigation. One thing just to highlight too, as with any project that involves a use permit where there's entitlements that are requested of the city, we have a indemnity provision that were the city to be challenged, that the applicant would indemnify and defend the city in that case. In terms of the required findings, the council may make the required findings in support of the project. There, in terms of being able to adopt the M&D per CEQA guidelines, in terms of changing the zoning to add the overlay district for plan development, as well as the special use permit with design review as well. And the Planning Commission, when it considered this last year, adopted 2 resolutions recommending that allowing the construction of it through the adoption of the M&D and the approval of the plan development, overlay district, and the associated entitlements of the specific development plan and special use permit with design review. That concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Council questions, Councilmember Dutra.
Thank you. A few questions. So on the, thank you. Where are we with the litigation on the townhomes on Airport Boulevard?
I would defer that to our city attorney to address.
Okay. City attorney?
It's in process. There's not, I mean, it's not resolved. It's not, we're going down the path of litigating. We're attempting to reach a settlement. I'm trying not to say too much. I'm happy to give the council an update via email with a bit more detail.
Did the applicants, are they, because I remember when the applicant came forward during that meeting, they said we'll stand with the city, we'll pay for the fees. Did all that happen?
Yeah, so this is a different, the city has an agreement in place with this applicant for this particular project, so that.
Signed.
Yes.
Okay. And then on that project, did you meet all the, I see in this presentation, there were a lot of zoning restrictions. In that project that is being sued by the pilots, were those zoning restrictions met, or did we put a 2-story building in a zone where we weren't supposed to?
Let me just rephrase it to make sure I understand the question. I think you're asking about the overall height of the project for the townhome facility at 547 Airport and whether that was in compliance with zoning restrictions?
Right.
In that case, that particular project was in compliance in that it could be 2 stories, and it was also in terms of airport safety zones, and we're distinguished between zoning and what we call our zoning code versus airport safety zones. So 2-story structures were allowed, and that's what they proposed. And 2-story structures the project site was in zone 6, and there's no limitation on the number of residential uses, and it was also not exceeding height maximums for that area. I hope that addresses your question.
But that was zone 6, that townhouse.
That townhouse project was zone 6, as well as the other townhouse project up the street at 221 Airport, also in zone 6.
So is that the old schoolhouse?
Correct.
Okay, that's what my other question was as well. Because what I'm struggling with is why was 221 not sued, but the townhouses were sued if it's a housing project in the same zoning district? Why is it pick and choose? I would like to understand.
You have to talk to the airport. That's what
Well, I want to know.
I'm sorry.
I like consistency, so it really,
Yeah.
it's,
We
when
all
you're
do.
denying one project but accepting another project in the same zone, I want to know why.
So I'm sorry, I was trying to do 2 things at once. Can you ask me that question again, Councilmember Dutra?
Why was 221 approved, but the townhouses not, why was 221 not being sued by the pilots, but the townhouses are being sued by the pilots, and they're in the same zoning district, and they're both housing projects?
Yeah, I understand that question, and unfortunately, I cannot answer it. That is a question for the pilots.
And I
There are
have a hard time
probably
with
all
that.
sorts of things that go into a calculation of when to file a lawsuit. We will never know.
I have a problem with that. So, so there's no answer, but yet it's 2 projects. One was allowed to go forward without a lawsuit, one was. It looks like you're meeting all from this presentation today, and the fact that it's signed, it looks like you are anticipating any sort of, pushback. You've met, the guidelines to know that the city's in the correct position to move this project forward. Am I understanding that?
My office has looked at it, and we believe it's positioned as well as it possibly can be. But I want to insert a caveat that we do not control who sues us. All we can control is how well positioned we are to defend a lawsuit.
Right. But you're telling me this is in a very good position to be defended.
It is positioned as well as it can be, yes. We understand that development by the airport it is fraught. We understand that, and we've worked with staff on this project.
And would you have had that same recommendation for the townhouse? I don't remember, were you even the council?
I wasn't the city
Yeah.
attorney then.
You've had a chance to look at it. What do you see? I mean.
I can't answer that, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Councilman Dutra. I had very similar questions. So I will move on to the thought that that our general plan is very important, because that seemingly is the core to this discussion. So airport compatibility, the unneeded parking spaces. The only thing I have concern of, and this may sound ignorant, so please tell me really quickly. Yeah, that's all taken care of. It's really tight down there for parking spaces on the street. So if there's not enough parking spaces within, go in on site and wherever people are, that was concerning to me. But you feel it's fine?
Yes, based off of the information about how parking is utilized at the applicant's other sites, as well as information from the traffic study, and the typical length of stay for when someone arrives. So a project of this nature doesn't generate a lot of traffic to begin with. Typical length of stay is on order of maybe 20 minutes. It doesn't generate a lot of peak hour traffic, and so people will come and go, visit their storage units and move on. So for those reasons, it wasn't found that an oversupply of parking would be needed, and the flexibility of changing that standard, in essence, to accommodate the site design as proposed, seemed appropriate.
Yeah, except for when there's a band jamming in their storage facility. Maybe they don't do that anymore. And so the safety zone issues, that was very telling, and I liked that information. I liked the layering of it and the understanding of it. I also want to say something very positive about Mr. Crocker. I loved A&W. I just want you to know how much I loved A&W. And that's where our family ate, and Mama, Papa, Baby Burgers. Anyway, that's an aside. That's just history from Watsonville, how much I really appreciated it. And knowing the history that Mr. Crocker has in our city, it's just nice to have, once again, people who believe in Watsonville do a project in Watsonville. Notwithstanding the WPD, I have reservations, but what I heard from our attorney was that we are positioned as best as possible, and that Mr. Crocker et al. Are in a very supportive signed agreement to support that. Is that correct, Madam Attorney?
Yes, Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Kitos Carter.
Thank you, Mayor.
Kitos Carter.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. So looking at the design, it looks like this is an open plan. It's not going to be gated. Is there any like security or anything like that? I just have concerns about that area and people doing nefarious things at night. And then my second question is just to kind of echo some of the parking comments. If there's parking like designated for the office. So I understand that parking is not really needed for a structure where it's self-serve like that, but when people are getting keys or moving out or things like that, is there designated spaces? I didn't see them, so I just want to double check that.
Certainly, I can address both those questions. In terms of security, there are gates that go around the site. Actually, some of the buildings, in essence, form like a wall, and then in between the buildings will be fencing, and then across the drive aisles are movable gates. And so the entire facility is gated off. There's also security cameras in strategic places throughout the site, including the main entrance, so as to help, keep for obvious security reasons. And then the site will be lighted as well to help deter people from trespassing and other kinds of behaviors. The second part of your question, I'm sorry, was the parking. Yes, right in front of the main, as you come into the site, the office is to the right, and that is where there's most of the parking that are in all in one location, so anyone visiting the site would park there, conduct their business, and then move on closer to wherever their storage unit is located.
Excellent. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, this is an opportunity for the public comments on this project.
I should also highlight that we have the applicant here in case you would like them to give a presentation.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Chevet, and I'm a representative of the Watsonville Pilots Association. The WPA's lawyers, Whitwer Parkin, sent a letter yesterday regarding this item. The letter restates WPA's comments on the mitigated negative declaration and the comments to the Planning Commission, which are included in your packet. We ask that you do not approve this project because the mitigated negative declaration does not address adequately the project's impacts related to the hazards resulting from the project's proximity to the airport and location within 3 airport safety zones. Furthermore, the city still does not have a compliant general plan that incorporates Caltrans Airport Land Use Planning Handbook. The city is required to incorporate the strictest standards in the handbook into its general plan, and it cannot approve this project until it has done so. Finally, city staff is contending that the handbook's discretionary provisions allow the city flexibility. However, as the Court of Appeals already held, the city must put into effect the handbook's criteria. Moreover, it must adopt the most stringent criteria as explained in Whitwer Parkin's letter. Therefore, you should deny approval of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi again. My name is Providence Martinez Alanis. I just wanted to, I like the project. I wanted to say that it looks like it's a really good project. But wasn't that the same area where their airplane crashed and killed that family a couple of years back? It's the same little area right there. That's where the airplane had the accident. So we should just keep that in mind, that an airplane already crashed with no building there. So with the building 2 stories there, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it would be too safe, you know, since it's gonna be like an apartment to be living in, and I don't know what kind of, I mean, just one person will be living there. I don't know, it's just, you know, think about that, because a family died in that area right there, like right in that area where he was explaining that this project is gonna be at, so just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Mayor and council members, I'm Ed Boersma. I'm the applicant and the designer, and I'm here representing the developers, one of whom is Ted Crocker, who's already been mentioned tonight. And Clark, you'll be pleased to know that you share a birthday with Ted Crocker. We'd like to express, firstly, our appreciation for Justin Meek and his professionalism. This has been a long process with lots of twists and turns, and we've made numerous changes to the plans to accommodate all the standards that are requested of us. We think we've come up together with a very nice design that will serve the city's needs for storage well. The city is greatly underserved by storage currently, and so we think this will be a benefit in that regard. As maybe some of you know, Ted and his brother are native Watsonville folks, and they also both happen to be pilots and have had airplanes at the airport over the decades, and are keenly aware of some of the issues around the airport. A real strong reason why you see self-storages near airports. They present a really low risk to the public. The density and intensity of that land use is the lowest of all commercial uses. So if not a self-storage, it would be something with a greater risk to. This facility will be Ted's finest. It'll be designed to the highest standards in the industry. It'll be fully solar powered. It'll have the highest level of security possible with over 60 cameras. With regard to security, in addition to the cameras, it's not an open self-storage facility as was brought up. It's a compound design with buildings around the perimeters. And the main gap between the buildings, that's the entrance, and there's a keypad controlled electronic gate. You get in if you are a current tenant. Punch in your keypad, your individual door alarm deactivates. A panel in the office shows a map of where you belong in that facility. That monitor changes that unit's color, so the manager knows where you're going. The 60 cameras will help see them wherever they are in the facility. And then when you leave, when you keypad out, you reactivate your alarm. We're also offering access to our cameras to the police department if they're interested. Question about parking. We do have 5 or 6 parking stalls outside the gate for people doing business at the facility. We have a total of 21 parking spaces. Our 40-plus years in the industry shows that we expect to have between 2 to 5 tenants to share those 21 spaces. So we have many times more parking than's needed. It's all within the drive aisles and at the entrance, so it doesn't impact us or the city in any way, but we have no concern about the amount of parking that's there. We also have reviewed the conditions of approval and accept them, and available to any of your questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Seeing no one from the public, any council questions, deliberation? Councilmember Parker.
I'm sorry, what was your name, sir?
Ed Boersma.
Ed
Boersma.
Boersma, thank you. Mr. Boersma brought up a good point, and Providencia brought up an equally good point, but self-storage, there's not that many people in there. It may destroy, things, but it's a lot better than apartments or condos or something that's within that area. For me, I think the WPA is going to object or not object. It's like what Councilman Dutra was headed towards, and we can't answer that question. As long as you're entering into this with your eyes wide open and understand that it's not about you, that it's about, our general plan and moving forward, and that takes time. I'm in favor of this project. I think it's a good project, and I think it's in a good place.
Thank you. With that, we're going to take a 5-minute recess for technical difficulties. And we'll be back, make it 6:25. 6:25. We'll be back. Thank you. With that, we're going to come back, and so we're in council deliberation on a motion. Any other deliberation or appropriate motion?
I'll second.
Well, somebody has to first.
She made a motion before we went.
I didn't have my microphone on.
Oh,
What the
okay.
heck? I make a motion to move forward. I want to make sure I have it. The first reading by title only, waiving the full reading of the text, and uncodified ordinance approving rezoning to establish a planned development overlay district for Santa Cruz County assessors. Did you want to do each one separately or all three together? The motion here, and then there's a resolution adopting.
We can do it in one single motion.
Okay,
for
then I
all.
make a motion, and I'm going to let, if our city clerk would read them for all three parts of that.
Absolutely. So I have a motion by Councilmember Parker, seconded by Councilmember Orozco, and it's to include the resolution adopting the mitigated negative declaration for application number 1656 for the Crockers Lockers project on a 4.4 plus or minus acre site located at 70 Nielsen Street, and adopting concurrently a mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the project in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act. It also includes, by motion, introducing for first reading by title only, waiving the full reading of the text, an uncodified ordinance approving a rezoning to establish a planned development overlay district for Santa Cruz County Assessor's Parcel Number 015-111-49, located at 70 Nielsen Street, from Industrial Park to Industrial Park Planned Development for application number 1656 for the construction of 1,072 self-storage units with a manager's apartment, and directing changes to be made on the zoning map of the city of Watsonville. This one requires at least 5 affirmative votes. And then it'll include also a resolution approving a specific development plan and special use permit with design review with environmental review. Application number 1656 to allow the construction of Crockers Lockers project of 1,072 self-storage units with a manager's apartment on a 4.4 plus or minus acre site located at 70 Nielsen Street here in California, Watsonville, California. And I will take roll now. Oh,
No,
comments, I'm sorry.
discussion.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Dutra.
Thank you. I first want to say thank you for, attempting to do business in Watsonville. Hopefully it will come to fruition for you. This is the first time I've ever seen the business community come up and stand up in support of a project in the zoning. It's the Watsonville Wetlands Watch. A lot of people were sending letters of support that live inside this community, and that's the first time I've ever seen that. So congratulations. Thank you for being a part of the community. And people see the history that you have with Watsonville. And I think that's why a lot of people are willing to stand up. So I know that you have signed the agreement, and we'll see what the pilots decide to do. But it's, from what I can see, and the amount of response that we've all received in support of you guys, it was very it was strong. So I also want to say that I also like the fact that they want to move the trees rather than just cut them down, and so to me that was also another environmentally positive thing. So I think that's what I read. I don't know if that was true. So because I think a lot of big companies would have just come in and just tore them out in their aged trees. So I appreciate that that happening, and I think this also does play into the fact that we just had the whole Measure Q, right? Don't build outside of the our city limits, but now we're being restricted to growing inside the city limits. That's a big question that this community is going to have to come to answer, because we're not being able to grow at all. If we can't grow out, we can't grow in. I look at that lot. To me, it just looks like a rundown lot right now, and that's why a lot of people leave Watsonville to spend their money to go other places. And I think a locker storage place is something that's needed in our community. I know there's one right around the corner, but people need to have the same services locally that you're able to get in other communities. And so I appreciate that, and I say thank you. And you will be getting my support this evening. And thanks for signing the document. So.
Any other comments? I'm going to take this. Councilman Dutra was right. We're going to do our general plan, due diligence, and do anything we can to grow inside the city limits. But we also, in my view, need to look at what the benefits of the airports are. Do they provide any benefit to the community? Because in my view, it doesn't. It just restricts us to be able to do anything. And thank you for the Crockers for being in this community and doing something good for our community, because there's not that many people out there, because there's so many restrictions around the airport. So that conversation needs to come in the future about what we do with the airport, because in my view, we should decommission the airport because it doesn't provide any benefit to our community. So with that, but I'm fully supportive of this resolution. It's going to be it looks like a great project where there's blight. There's nothing there, parking lot, with trees. So I look forward to seeing, the completion of the project. So with that, can I get a roll call?
Clark?
Aye.
Dutra?
Aye.
Orozco?
Aye.
Parker?
Yes.
Quiroz Carter?
Aye.
And Montesino?
Yes.
The motion carries.
With that, we don't have any emergency items added to the agenda. Any requests or scheduling of future item agendas? Seeing none, staff wants to make an announcement?
Yeah, we have some pretty exciting news to share with the council. So I'm going to ask our assistant city manager to come up and share it. Maybe she will try. I don't think she'll sing, but maybe she'll do a little jig.
If I sing, rains, and I want to keep the dry weather going. So, but I want to dance because I'm really excited to announce that this afternoon we met with FEMA and CalOES to support the opening of a local brick and mortar office here in our city. And that request was supported and supported by the county as well. And our staff worked really, really hard today. We went through several city buildings to be able to identify a location that meets the requirements. And we secure a location this afternoon and are in discussions that our local office will open on Friday morning. It will be open likely at Ramsey Park is what the location that would accommodate 20 state agencies that will come with their staff to have services available for our residents that need assistance, that have been just part of the flooded area in our city. So it's great resources that will be available. They will be open 7 days a week, 8 to 5. So it's just really exciting and to be able to have mobilized, in partnership with the state and the federal government to open that office locally. And, big thanks to our team because there was a lot of us running around just identifying that site for today. But I'm just really, really happy. I was telling City Manager Mendez how excited I am to be able to have that available in our community just this week. So, good news.
No, thanks for all the efforts. That's going to be a great resource for our community here, especially for senior community. Councilmember Parker.
I was going to ask, when are you going to send us stuff that we can send that out to people? I mean, I know that obviously the city is preparing an announcement, and I think that's great. But details so that we can follow through. And I know I speak for myself because I get inundated.
Yeah.
But it would be greatly appreciated. And I am just so stoked that you guys made this happen. That is amazing. Are we going to be serving the county folks that are right outside the city as well? So it's anybody in the general area or the whole county who wants to
Correct.
come to our FEMA offices?
Correct.
Awesome.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And I would anticipate that we will have good information available by early afternoon tomorrow. There are phone lines and websites that are already open and available to assist residents, but I think when there's so much and so many needs, it's just great to be able to walk in and have that face-to-face interaction with the people that can really get some help. So I'm excited about that.
Well, for my seniors, that's huge. I mean, they don't do internet. They're struggling with it. It's a phone. Some of them have hearing issues. So, it's huge for them to be able to see face-to-face someone and understand the process and do what they need to do. So, very grateful.
Yeah.
Thank you,
and
city
a place
staff.
everybody knows, and it's plenty of parking. It's a great resource. Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work.
That is exciting.
Yeah. With that, we adjourn tonight. Thanks.